Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Ebenezer. Thank you, Sonia, for the introduction. I'd really like to thank IELTA Ghana and IELTA International for this invitation. Ms. Nirmala, I agree totally with you on the importance of continuous professional development. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ebenezer. Thank you, Sonia, for the introduction. I think really I hear myself now. I don't know why. Can you hear me correctly?
Yes, we can. Yes, we
okay, can. Because suddenly I started hearing myself again, and it was very confusing. I was saying, Ms. Nirmala, I totally agree with you on the importance of continuous professional development and the many opportunities this pandemic that has affected us for the last couple of years and still affecting us in many ways has given us. Because had it not been for this situation, this extraordinary situation, and had it not been because we were all forced to go online and to teach online and to start liaising with other teachers and other associations, I don't think I would have been able to meet so many incredible professionals around the world. And I don't know if I have been so lucky as to get to know all the teachers, the ambassadors, and everybody who run and are part of IELTA and the different IELTA associations in different parts of the world. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to all the colleagues who are attending today, either here on Zoom or watching the streaming session. So I would like to share my screen, if that is okay. Let's see. Here we are. So today I would like to talk about visual input and creative output. And I would like to first give an example of what I mean by visual input. The story goes that Toscanini, the Italian composer and conductor and musician, found himself once unable to describe the effect that he hoped to achieve from a particular passage of music. He was conducting an orchestra in that moment, and after a moment's thought, what he did was he took a silk handkerchief from his pocket and threw it high into the air. The orchestra watched the slow and graceful descent of this handkerchief, and looking at them, Toscanini smiled and said, "There, play it like that." So this is a good example of how visual input is important and what we mean by visual input. The flight of the handkerchief and how it can spark creative output. That is the way in which the orchestra is going to render the music. Now, when Meryl Swain formulated her output hypothesis, she stated that while input is necessary for language acquisition, it is not enough. She asserts that the act of producing language, that is, speaking, writing, constitutes part of the process of second language learning, and that the learner needs to produce language, and not only produce, but be pushed towards the delivery of a message that is not only conveyed, but that is conveyed precisely, coherently, and appropriately. And she adds that being pushed in output is a concept that is parallel to that of the I+1 of comprehensible input. Now, in a brilliant, I find at least brilliant, blog post on the topic of pushed output, Scott Thornbury states the importance of pushed output. noting that being pushed to produce language puts learners in a better position to notice the gaps in their language knowledge, encouraging them to upgrade their existing language system. And as they are pushed to produce language in real time and also forced to make low-level operations automatic by incorporating them into higher-level routines, it may also contribute to the development of fluency. So, output and the way we use it in the classroom has an important effect on what learners are able to do and how they experience the learning process. And the benefits are many. To begin with, confidence. Students may develop greater self-confidence as a result of spending more time using a second language to communicate and seeing the improvement they are experiencing in their communication skills. While they may feel that production is a natural product of language acquisition, fear can hinder many natural processes. So we must remember this. Fostering confidence. Also, creativity. Through output work, students have a chance to use words, expressions in new and unique ways that stretch and improve their language level. Classroom activities that allow learners to be who they want to be and do what they want, they may not be able to do outside the classroom, sparks creativity. Fun. Let's not forget about this. Although it may not be an academic concept, fun is a simple way of referring to the enjoyment of students using the second language to tell a story, to do a play, to play games, to participate in role play. So that's what we mean by fun. Autonomous learning, that's another benefit. By practicing writing and speaking in the second language, students become accustomed to practicing a language through producing stretches of texts, be it written or oral, and it may result in increased learner independence. Also, self-expression. Students can learn to put their thoughts, their feelings into words through output work, helping them to articulate themselves more precisely and more accurately. Now, let's speak now on the other key word in creative output, creative. Now, creativity is not a talent like running fast. Creativity is what makes us human. It's something that you can nurture, expand, grow, and learn. Creativity is a birthright. We are all born with creative impulses. Although we may all vary in talent, we can train ourselves to be more creative by understanding how creativity works, by practicing divergent thinking strategies and caring more about exploring. Creativity is a Tao. It's a way of thinking, being, and doing. That's a Tao. It's a lens through which we experience the world. It may evolve in its purpose and its appearance, but it remains a pathway to understanding and problem solving. As Steve Jobs once said, creativity is connecting the dots. It's about seeing relationships which others fail to see. So these metaphorical dots are bits of knowledge and experience that we have gathered and stored over time. And creativity in education is a balance of dot collection, making sense, and making associations. Also, creativity thrives on context. Fostering creativity means providing an environment conducive to creative, playful thinking and making. The environment is both physical and psychological. Trust and respect in the social setting are a must. Also, creativity craves constraints. Many people think that creativity flowers or blooms when there is total freedom, and that is wrong. Creativity works best with prompts, parameters, and limitations. Too much freedom can be daunting and quite inhibiting. So we flourish with conditions, with rules, with challenges. While we can develop constraints, serendipity and chance also work as an inspiration. Let's remember that. And creative thinking and being are the skills of the century. The need for cognitive ability and flexibility is ever increasing in our world. We need to learn, unlearn, and learn again. When we are able to remix a concept is when we have truly learned it. Thus, all learning must have some aspects, some elements of creativity. Education should inspire us to want to wonder and learn about things on our own. It should point us in the direction of tools that we can use to facilitate our lifelong learning pursuits. And of course, as adults, we need to assimilate this, and then we need to make this apparent to our students. So creativity as a concept can be daunting because many people feel that they aren't creative when perhaps what they really mean is that they don't believe they are artistically talented, which is completely different. Creativity is much, much broader. As I have just said, it's learning and learning and relearning. Doris Lessing defined learning as the moment you suddenly understand something that you have understood all your life, but in a new way. So when you are able to remix a concept, you have truly learned it. So, as I said before, all learning should involve some aspect of creativity. Now, let's examine the other keywords, visual input. Now, the vast majority of language teachers, all of us, use images in our classroom. In today's increasingly visual world, it is difficult to imagine the language classroom without coursebook images, photographs, paintings, cartoons, picture books, etc. However, we need to ask ourselves whether the images are being used merely as an aid or support or as a significant component of communicating in a foreign language and as a means of fostering the students' creativity and communicative competence. In 1966, Pitt Corder, in his study, The Visual Element in Language Teaching, said that there was a very important distinction between talking about images, that is, merely describing the images, and talking with images, that is, responding personally to images. And notice that I am saying that this teacher, this, let's say, guru of the older generations of teachers, said this in 1966, when we were not flooded by images the way we are now. So the importance of visual literacy in education needs to be acknowledged. It is generally agreed that education needs to develop learners' skills and abilities to interpret images and to communicate visually. So in order to achieve this, we need to help them develop their visual thinking strategies. So what are visual thinking strategies? This is an inquiry-based teaching method created by a psychologist and a museum educator. Cognitive psychologist Abigail House, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago, and museum educator Philip Yenawine. They created this method because Yenawine works at the MoMA Museum in New York, and he noticed that the sort of experiences they were giving the people who visited the museum were not enough for them to appreciate the works of art that were exhibited in the museum. So he decided to create something different, and so he paired up with this cognitive psychologist and developed this method. So he defines visual thinking strategies as the use of art to teach visual literacy, thinking, and communication skills, listening and expressing oneself. The process is very, very simple. It goes like this. The teacher projects an image or shows an image if you're using interactive whiteboards, overhead projectors, or simply you can use a large picture. And you ask students to look quietly at the image for a moment. Then the teacher asks several specific questions, open-ended questions in a certain sequence. Learners discuss their responses, and the teacher's role is that of a facilitator. The teacher does not correct, does not add comments, direct students' attention, or pass judgment at all. In all, this process takes not more than 20 minutes. Now, the key elements of this method are art, because the subject to discuss is art. However, having learned myself about this, I decided to use it not just with art, but with any kind of visual input. And the three questions that the method presents for you to ask are, what's going on in this picture? What do you say that makes you say that? And what more can we find? So individual students notice different things and contribute diverse observations, opinions, information, and no attempt, this is very, very important, there is no attempt at reaching a consensus. There is no judgment passed regarding the different interpretations. So now, based on this method, and as I said, not using just works of art, but other visual input, I will show you some image-based tasks which require students to interpret, analyze what they see, and come up with some creative output. For example, if we are using art, if you wish to use art, here I have a picture by famous Spanish painter Murillo. He lived in the 17th century. So you can use this. Here we have two young women looking out of a window. One thing that I suggest is that when you choose the visual input, make sure that it sparks action from the students. So, for example, suppose that I would ask you, we are a lot now, but if we were doing this face-to-face, I would ask you to work in groups and discuss what's going on in the picture. So each of you would contribute to the discussion. What do you see, sorry, that makes you say that? So you have to justify your opinion. And what more can we find? So you need to go beyond the first images, the first image or the first impact that the image creates on you. So what I do is after the students have discussed these three questions, I add three more. You can add more if you like, of course. But what I usually do that fits quite well with any picture or any image that you show is, what happened a few minutes before this scene? What happened after the scene? Can you imagine the conversation? So here we are expanding the three basic questions, and with the last one, can you imagine the conversation? I am encouraging the students to create output. to create a conversation. So students can write the conversations in groups, in pairs, individually if they wish, and then they can act the conversations out. You can do the same with photographs, works of arts, and trigger all sorts of ideas at all levels. For example, this is a picture that I really like. I found this. I don't know if it is a work of art. I don't think so. I think that it is a kind of collage. I found it on the internet. And it shows Vincent van Gogh, my favorite painter, the Lady of the Pearl, that is, she is the protagonist of a painting by Vermeer from the Dutch School of Painting, and Frida Kahlo, the Mexican artist. So here again, you can ask the students the 3 questions, and then everything can proceed in a different way, because you can, for example, ask them to imagine that one of them stands up and goes to the toilet. Who goes to the toilet? For example, suppose that Vincent goes to the toilet and the 2 ladies are left alone talking about him, discussing him. Or maybe one of the ladies goes away. What's the dialogue between Vincent and the lady who stays? So this is very rich in the way of output from the students. It generates a lot of discussion, and then it can generate a lot of output. Of course, the activities can be adapted to different levels. For example, you can do the same with photographs. Here we have, this is a painting by a contemporary American artist. This is a picture of Frankenstein from, I think it's the first Frankenstein movie ever made in Hollywood. I don't know how many years ago, but a lot of years ago. And this is another picture that I found on the internet. So this activity, as I say, can be adapted to different levels. Here, you can choose simpler or more complex pictures, and the output will vary depending on the student's level of competence. If you have low-level students, before the students attempt the questions, you can brainstorm vocabulary inspired by the pictures. You can help them by giving equivalents in English for words they don't know, and this will make it easier for them to discuss the questions. Very importantly, give students viewing time. That is, it's important that they have time to look at the pictures and think. If they wish, they can make notes, and then you ask the 3 questions. Allow them to discuss different perceptions and points of view. They can work in pairs, as I said, or in groups, and come up with a story and a title for the story. The story can be just a few lines long or a more elaborate one. They can also video record the story and add a soundtrack to the story. In addition to using random photos to stir one's imagination for story writing or for dialogue creating for role playing, the exercise initiates students in the idea of matching photographs to storytelling, and this serves as an introduction to digital storytelling. Now, another thing that I like doing with my students is to choose 2 pictures and 2 very different pieces of music. For example, here we have, this is a picture by Monet, and this is the Starry Night by Van Gogh. So you can show the students the pictures. You can ask them the 3 questions about each, and you can ask the students to compare and contrast the pictures. Then choose 2 very different pieces of music. It could be, for example, a piece of electronic music and a piece of classical music, but make it be just music. not a song with lyrics, because otherwise they will get distracted with the lyrics or they will get influenced by the lyrics. So just music, any kind of music, but two very different pieces. Yes, so you play the first piece of music and you ask the students which picture it might be connected with and why. Once they have discussed this and they have made their choices, play the second piece of music and ask the same question. The same question. Which music can they associate? Which picture can they associate this music with? Have they changed their minds about the connections after hearing the second piece? I have done this with teachers several times and with students. And generally, when they hear the second piece of music, they change their choices. It's quite funny. In this case, I remember that I played, it was a piece of classical music by Schumann and a piece of electronic music from a science fiction film, which I had never seen in my life, but the music was very, very different from the first piece. So many teachers and many students, when they heard the electronic piece, they associated it with the Starry Night, while at the beginning they had associated Schumann's piece with the Starry Night. It was very, very funny. Sometimes they change in ways that you don't expect them to. So you can also ask them to think, when several students make the same connection, do they give the same reasons for making this connection? This is something very interesting to discuss in the classroom. Also, depending on the level of the class, you may ask them to write down words that both the picture and the music evoke in them, and then they can write a poem. Of course, they will have had previous preparation or experience about writing poems. My dear friend, Miss Brenda, I'm sure will be able to give you a lot of input on writing poetry. She's the ambassador for Mauritius, and she's a wonderful poet. I'm sure she will kill me for saying this, but she is a wonderful poet. Okay, so the next activity is object interviews. Now, we have a lot of objects around us all the time and every day, but we never ask ourselves, what are all these objects surrounding us in our lives? And this object interview is about finding out who these objects are. So we have this chair. You show the image and you allow thinking time. You ask the three questions. What's going on in the picture? What do you see that makes you say that? What more can we find? And you can then proceed to asking the class to think how the chair feels about being maimed like that, having a leg cut off and turned into a toy. Notice here, this is the leg and it has been turned into a toy. So how do they think the chair feels? They can work in pairs or in small groups and imagine the feelings of this chair. They can imagine an interview with the chair. What would they ask the chair if the chair could speak? And then they can role play the interview. Then ask them to imagine a conversation between this chair and a modern chair that live in the same room in a house. You can ask them to imagine the conversation and act it out or video record the conversation. And then you can show a video about the actual interview. I found this material. I hope I can share it correctly. Let me see. I'm going to make sure I share the sound. Yeah, over.
So, I heard that you cost more than me.
It doesn't surprise me. You're too fat and I'm injured.
Fat? I don't think so. What happened to you?
A designer mistake. A doctor had to pull off my leg 18 years ago. He used some books to replace it and made a toy out of the rest. Stay focused on cleaning the carpet. People will arrive.
I'm sorry for you. Hope you read the book before.
Oh, oops, stop it. Okay, so I hope you have been able to hear it. So before this, the students have written their conversation. So then you can show the video without sound and ask them the questions again and ask them to imagine the dialogue, and then show the video with the sound and make them compare this dialogue with the dialogue they imagined. So here you have lots of opportunities for creative output. And then, last but not least, using film posters. This can be just a design activity or can be a much larger project. So all you need is samples of or illustrations or actual posters of films that you can find on the internet, of course. So you need to pre-teach some vocabulary related to the cinema and to films. For example, title, stars, director, strapline. You divide the class into groups and elicit from the groups the kind of information they would expect to find on a film poster. So what information do we find on a film poster? What do we want to see on a film poster? So you display the posters or you give each group a copy of the illustration, ask them to find the title, the stars, the director, the strapline, describe the picture. You can ask them to predict what the film is about, where it will be set, who the main characters are and what happens to them. And then you can divide the class into larger groups if you wish, or keep them as they are working, and ask them to pretend that they are film directors. And they have to design their own poster for their film. And they have to choose the actors, decide where the film will be shot, imagine and write a story, write the strapline, and present their project to the class. So these are just some activities that you can do. I'm sure that you can develop a lot more, and I'm sure that you have been using a lot more activities using visual input. These ones have been really successful, I would say, with my students at different levels. I have adapted them to my students' levels. I have used them not with children, I must say. I have used these activities with teenagers, with young adults, and with adult students, and they have really enjoyed them. And I have also used these activities in face-to-face workshops with the teachers, so that they had a direct experience of the activities, and we have had a lot of fun with them. There is a lot that can come out, a lot of ideas, a lot of output. Here you have the references, the output hypothesis I mentioned at the beginning. Also, Scott Thornbury's WordPress blog, and the object interviews that I found some time ago. Please remember that, as Dorothy Parker said, creativity is a wild mind, but in a disciplined eye. So we need to teach our learners how to be wildly imaginative, but with some discipline. These are my contacts, my email, my blog. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and also on Facebook. Oh, I forgot to put my Facebook here. But well, you can find me on Facebook too. And again, thank you very, very much to all of you for inviting me to give this session. And I guess that we have time for questions.
All right, thank you, Miss Annie, for that wonderful presentation on developing creativity and imagination in the classroom. Okay, we'll go to the open forum so that we take some questions from our participants.
I see here a comment by Doris from IELTA, Lebanon. She says, reading books will make you speak and move forward in life. Of course, of course. I am an avid reader, and I'm always trying to include literature, poetry in my classes. I think that reading allows you to live many lives. And yes, it can help you move forward in life. I'm sorry you weren't able to hear. Oh my God. Watching movie clips, definitely, yes. I didn't want to include so many things because I was afraid of running short of time. But movie clips are wonderful because you can show them with sound, without sound. You can ask the students to imagine dialogues. Lots of things that you can do with movie clips and documentaries. Yes, documentaries are wonderful. Yeah. Thank you, Sonia.
Yes, Miss Annie, we have this coming from Doris from IELTA, Lebanon. She asked the question, should we choose the input in a way that fits the needs of the output, or we start with the output to teach the input?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you very well.
Okay, there's a question from Doris from IELTA, Lebanon. She is asking, should we choose the input in a way that fits the need of the output, or we start with the output to teach the input?
I think that we shouldn't be choosing the input, taking into account the output. I think that when we are doing this sort of activity, at least this is what I do. When I'm doing this sort of activity, I allow students choice and freedom to choose the way they are going to respond to the input. Because we have to remember, and this touches upon a subject that I am that is very important for me, and that is differentiation in the classroom. We need to bear in mind that we have different students. Students differ. I mean, we can have 20 students and we have 20 different realities. So we will have students who are better at drawing, at acting out, at writing poetry, at writing narrative, at speaking in public. So I think that one way in which we can cater for the different needs of our students is allowing, when we are doing these activities, allowing freedom of choice when it comes to the output. I wouldn't be using these activities conditioned by output. I will allow them to choose the form of responding to the material and expressing themselves. Because remember that these are activities that we are using to develop fluency, creativity, and imagination. We are not looking here at accuracy. So I think that these activities belong to a different, let's say, world we need to, within our lessons.
Okay, thank you, Miss Annie, for that explanation. Is there any other question? If you have any question, kindly type it in the chat box and we'll read this out. Okay, in the chat box, we have congratulatory messages, wonderful presentation from Ms. Sonia.
Thank you so much. You are very generous.
Great presentation from Zara, awesome presentation from Philip. Thanks so much, great presentation from Idrisu Nava. Thank you from Haifa, from IELTA, Lebanon. Frank says, we are much grateful to you, Miss Annie. It was a great presentation full of practical tips. Thank you so much, Miss Annie. Incredible sharing from Miss Namala. Yes, so we are still in the open forum. If you have any question, kindly type it in. Okay, there's a question coming from Dora Locke. Is it okay to share with us the link of the video just now?
Yes.
Okay, you mean the video, Miss? Yeah.
Let me see. I'm going to. Let's see if I can copy it. Oops. I'm trying to copy it from my presentation, but I don't seem to be able to. But what I will do is, give me a second. If you give me a second, I will. Let's see. Now here. Here. Copy, and here it goes. There you are. Samuel.
Okay, we have
yes.
a hand up here. Yes, Samuel. Let me, okay.
Hello.
Hello, Samuel. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, please. I have a question. Please, my question is that how do we as teachers of English determine that our creativity in the classroom has really been effective?
How do we determine if our activities for developing creativity have been effective?
Yes, how do we as teachers, yes, that's my question.
Yeah.
That's my question.
Well, I think that creativity is quite difficult to assess in terms of giving it a kind of grade or mark. But I think, at least again, in my experience, when you see what students are producing, you know your students. So you know what they are capable of. You know what they usually do and do not do. Georgia says trial and error, possibly. And so when you see what they are producing, at least this is what happens to me. When I see what they are producing, I can see how they are progressing. Because, for example, if they are doing a role play based on a story that they have created, you will see how they speak, what their body language is, the intonation that they are using, the ideas that they have produced. So what I would recommend is, do not think of the output of these activities as something that we can assess in the same way that we assess an essay that they have to produce for an examination, or in the same way as we assess a multiple choice test. What you can do is, for example, think of certain criteria. And here we come to another of my favorite topics, that is formative assessment. You can think of a set of criteria that will reflect the objectives that you have for this activity. So you prepare the activity and you think what you want the students to achieve with this activity, and you develop a set of criteria. It doesn't need to be long, maybe 3 or 4 criteria, perhaps referring to fluency, maybe to collaboration, to creative thinking. And in that way, when the students are producing, you can look at the criteria and see how these criteria have been met. I see that the link seems to be leading somewhere else. Oh my dear, it seems that it's broken or something. Maybe Ebenezer, if you agree, maybe I can check after we finish with this. I can check what happens with the link and send you the correct one, and you can share it with the participants.
Right, that's fine.
Because it seems that it's not working very well. It's from the Design Academy in Milan, but maybe it's not working well. I will check and resend it. If send it to you, Ebenezer.
Okay, thank you.
Samuel, I don't know if my answer is satisfactory, but that's how I see it, at least.
All right.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello, Samuel.
Yes, please. I think I'm satisfied with the response that she has given. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other questions? Let me check on YouTube whether we have any questions from our participants. Do we have any other questions? Do we have any other? Oh, okay. We seem not to have any other question on YouTube as well. We have participants who are watching us from Peru and the other countries on YouTube. Okay, that's great. All right. If we don't have any other questions from our participants, then I will say that, Ms. Annie, we are so grateful for your time with us, for honoring this invitation and spending your time with us to take us through this awesome presentation. We are so grateful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you all for attending.
All right, and may I share my screen as we go to the next item? Okay. So soon we are almost getting to the ending of the session, and we are going to the awarding of certificates. We have some certificates for different people here. Ms. Nemala, are you there? Hello, Ms. Nemala. May I know if Miss Namala is with us? She's having a challenge. Okay. All right, so let's go through this quickly. The awarding of certificates. My name is Ebenezer Altamirano. As you know, I am the IELTA Ghana ambassador, and I thank you all for attending this session, both in Zoom and also on our official YouTube channel. On YouTube, you can find us quickly by typing in IELTA Ghana. On Facebook, you can do the same thing, IELTA Ghana. And then on Twitter, on Instagram, we are there. Our email is ielta.ghana@gmail.com. So let me take you quickly. All right, our first certificate goes to Miss Annie Altamirano. And let me read. International English Language Teachers Association, Ghana chapter registration number CG020380322. Awards this certificate of recognition to Annie Altamirano, Vice President of TESOL, Spain, in recognition of her invaluable service rendered as resource keeper of the webinar entitled Visual Input, Creative Output, Developing Creativity and Imagination in a Classroom, awarded the 16th day of July 2022 via Zoom. And this certificate is duly signed by Ms. Patti Isi, the President of IELTA Ghana, Madam Veronica Juma Sapon, the General Secretary of IELTA Ghana, Mr. Alfred Kwetu, the Academic Director of IELTA Ghana, and yours truly, Ebenezer, the Ambassador for IELTA Ghana. Thank you so much, Miss Annie. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
All right, we have another certificate going to Dr. Neil Arvalo Alcantara, President of IELTA International, for generously sharing his time, effort, and expertise as guest of honor during the webinar entitled Visual Input, Creative Outputs, Developing Creativity and Imagination in the Classroom, presented by Ms. Annie Altamirano, Vice President of TESOL, Spain, awarded the 16th day of July 2022 via Zoom. Thank you, Dr. Neil. In fact, when I contacted Dr. Neil, he told me as a class that he would try his possible best and then be with us in the morning, and then we go back to class. We are so grateful. The next one goes to Ms. Nemala, the IELTA Ambassador for Malaysia. We award a certificate of recognition to Ms. Nemala Kandasamy, IELTA Ambassador Malaysia, for generously sharing her time, effort, and expertise as guest of honor during the webinar entitled Visual Input, Creative Output, Developing Creativity and Imagination in the Classroom, presented by Ms. Annie Altamirano, Vice President, TESOL, Spain, awarded the 16th day of July 2022 via Zoom. And then we have...
Thank you, Mr. Ebenezer, for the invitation.
Thank you, Ms. Namala, for honoring this invitation. Thank you for your time.
Welcome.
And we have other certificates going to our moderators. There are 3 in number, Mr. Francis Xavier, and then Ms. Sonia Adebuga. Mr. Francis is the Municipal Coordinator for Wenchi, IELTA Ghana, and Ms. Sonia is the Coordinator for the German North District. And Mr. Frank, Atta Frank, he is the Coordinator for the Sinyan Municipal, IELTA Ghana. We award these certificates to you in recognition of your invaluable service rendered as moderator of the webinar entitled Visual Input, Creative Output, Developing Creativity and Imagination in the Classroom, presented by Ms. Annie Altamirano, Vice President, TESOL, Spain, awarded the 16th day of July 2022 via Zoom. Thank you so much for the wonderful work you are doing. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you, Ms. Sonia. Thank you, Mr. Francis. All right, that takes us to our dear participants. We are going to issue certificates of participation to all our participants. And may I share the attendance and evaluation link with you? Kindly fill out the form for us so that you get your certificate. Fill out the attendance and evaluation form for us using the link that is being posted in the chat box on YouTube and also on Zoom. Kindly fill out the form for us. Thank you. So the form is being posted right away. So we have a certificate of participation to the name of the participants for your active participation during the webinar for educators on the topic visual inputs, creative outputs, developing creativity and imagination in a classroom, presented by Ms. Annie Altamirano, Vice President of TESOL Spain, given the 16th day of July 2022 via Zoom, and is duly signed by the President of IELTA Ghana, the General Secretary, the Academic Director, and the Ambassador of IELTA Ghana. Thank you. So while you fill out the form, let's take the closing remarks from Mr. Alfred. Hello, Mr. Alfred. Hello, Miss Sonia. I've sent the form to you. Kindly post it in the chat box. Thank you. Miss Sonia, kindly post the link in the chat box for us. Thank you. All right, while we are waiting for the link, let me take you through a few announcements and we'll be out of here. Okay, Ms. Nemala, if you are here, can you give us details of this program as it is under the Learning Development Department? Thank you. Hello, Ms. Nemala. All right, so we have two major programs. One is going to be on the 19th of July, that's Tuesday, 19th of July, with Miss Annie. It's under the IELTA Learning Development Department, and it's the IELTA Book Lab International. We invite registered students to our fourth meeting, and the speaker is Miss Annie, as I indicated earlier on. And the time is 6 p.m. Mauritius time, that's 10 a.m. New York time. In Ghana, that will be 2 p.m. And the duration is just 1 hour, and it's via Zoom. So links will be sent to registered educators for this program. And then may I announce this to you that on August 6th this year, we are hosting Miss Annie once again on another wonderful topic, developing critical thinking skills through speaking and writing. We'll post details of this program on our various platforms, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, and then other platforms. So please stay with us and then be on the lookout for these details. Thank you so much. Oh, I learned some people are complaining that the form is not. Let me check it for you. Make sure you fill out the form before you leave here. Fill out the form before you leave. All right, so the form is active. Kindly fill it out. I guess the link has been posted in the chat box. So kindly fill out the form and then let's get all the responses by the close of today. Okay, Miss Annie, yes, thank you so much for your time with us. We are so grateful. We hope to see you again on August C. Thank you. Thank you.